Yes. Do you want to buy it?
Right, make me an offer.
No, you make me an offer.
Oh, okay.
I've not done it often, but my understanding is that's the way around it generally goes.
I guess it depends what you're selling.
Well, you've seen online, so you know exactly what I'm selling.
I didn't really do much research.
Oh, all right. I believe you.
I did see your technical drawing board, though.
Splendid. Otherwise known as a craft table.
Oh.
Not mine.
What was that program on television? Was it Lloyd Grossman? Who was the guy that used to do the Through the Keyhole, and you had to guess the owner of the house?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it, years ago?
Was it?
Yeah.
Showing your age, Ian.
No, it was David Frost.
I thought Lloyd Grossman made pasta sauce.
I think there's an updated version of it now.
Oh.
Oh, joy.
I used to love that. Who lives in a house like this?
Oh,
Yeah.
that one, yes.
And people had put a fluffy, cuddly bear in just to throw you off track, type of thing, when it'd be a big butch rugby player or something.
Oh, Mr. Jarvis. Right, there we go. Let's do this.
Right, Steve. I love the way on Zoom that people's squares move around like on Celebrity Squares, because 1 minute Steve was in the bottom right corner, now he's in mid right on the bottom of my screen.
Yeah, makes it very difficult to keep track of who's where, doesn't it?
Yeah.
People have disappeared and actually popped up in different places where you're expecting to see them.
I liked it on Celebrity Squares where people used to talk from one square at the top to the one underneath and vice versa. It sort of added a comical effect to it. I forget who the host was. Was that Terry Wogan at one point, or was it Bob Monkhouse?
Yeah, it's Bob.
Anyway, back to business.
We haven't started yet.
I've got 1930 on my monitor here.
Well, I'm just admitting Terry.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're expecting Terry this evening.
And also, well, I've not had apologies from Anne or Evelyn, so I'll keep my eye out for them.
Ooh,
Hi.
Captain Birdseye.
Father Christmas, if you don't mind. Good evening. Sorry, I'm a tiny bit late.
Good evening. No, I don't think you were late, actually, Terry. Should we make a start at this point? And I'm sure the other two can join us if they're able to.
Sure.
So we'll start with apologies. Do I understand we don't have apologies?
Oh, here's Anne. No,
Oh.
not apologies. I'll put Anne in.
Evening, Anne.
Hello.
We were just doing apologies, of which we have none. So, any declarations of interests on items on the agenda? I have had none. And approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Were there any comments to raise regarding the minutes?
I have one.
Certainly.
I just need to change the, where is it? Under the finance section. So FC 21036, I just need to change the VAT return value. I put in the minutes 6191, it was 6133. So I'll change that for the amended copy.
Are there any other comments on the minutes? Or shall we move to receiving a verbal report on actions arising from the minutes? Okay, over to Kelly.
Okay, first one, the CCTV. So we had a Zoom call between representatives from Gacc and Hertfordshire CCTV on the 30th of March. I'm going to hand over to Ian. Ian and Robert attended, and Ian's going to give an update to you all.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, so Kelly, Robert and myself attended and met with Mike Reed and Steve Cook from Herts CCTV. This provided a good opportunity to receive a first-hand update and clear up some questions. So in summary, in terms of the camera, the multicam mounted in the community centre car park is permanently recording. The footage is not constantly monitored, but is available on request. The footage is overwritten every 28 days. The control room dials in twice a day to check that the live stream is working and it's recording, and the camera's pointing in the correct direction. If there's a need, then Herts CCTV can send footage or allow viewing for the police as and when needed. The footage is requested as per the sign. You know, if you want to request footage, it's as per the sign fixed on the lamppost underneath the CCTV camera, and all the contact details are given. Herts CCTV said that they'd be able to provide a quarterly report to show a number of requests, and a visit to the control centre can be arranged when the COVID restrictions permit. So following on from that, the two proposals I'd like to make would be that we propose via Kelly, we formally ask Herts CCTV for a quarterly report, and we ask Kelly to increase awareness of this CCTV to residents via our website and Facebook. So do you want to take that as a proposal that we vote on, or just take that as standard?
I think we could probably accept that as a proposal. Is there any discussion regarding that?
There shouldn't be, but you do need a seconder, which I'm happy to second.
I think Terry just got in there first. Is there any discussion regarding that, or do we want to? Are we happy to nod that through?
Yeah.
Might just be useful to ensure that the shops in the facility are fully aware of the operational system, so that they can advise any customers who may be asking questions of them.
I think that's a very good idea and probably comes under the raising awareness aspect. Sorry, Terry.
I just got one question, Ian. I don't know if it came up, but you mentioned the signage of the cameras, which is one tiny sign on the lamppost where they're attached to. I'm just wondering from I don't know if I'd call it a legal point of view, but from a normal point of view, when I see CC cameras in operations, there's a lot more bigger signs around the site to warn people. Should we consider putting other signs in, is my question.
I mean, I guess it's not just for me to answer this, but I mean, my thoughts are that it's a question we could put to Mike Reed and HCCTV when Kelly goes back, when we ask for the quarterly report, because I guess it's a valid question, and you know, every interaction I've had with the company and Mike Reed and Steve Cook, they've been very professional, and they know what they're doing. They've got a number of cameras across Hertfordshire that's in their network. So I'm sure if it was necessary or they thought it was relevant, then they would they'd say, oh yeah, we'll put some, we're agreeing to put some others up, but that's just my immediate thought from the.
I suppose just one thing. I suppose when I think about it, that the most logical place to put a sign is on the entrance that this is CC covered. That would be something that I would definitely support. But we could seek, we should seek advice as well. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Martin, did you have
I was
something?
just going to say, isn't the reason we've got such a tiny sign up there just to tick the box that makes them legal? They're of little use really, because someone's only got to look up to see CCTV. But I take Terry's point that it's much more useful if you're trying to deter evildoers to put something on the entrance to the car park. Much more useful.
That's my suspicion as well. Is that I don't know the legal truth of it, but I suspect we have the legally required signage, but not the sort of deterrent level signage.
The other aspect that springs to mind when we're talking here is that it's not the only camera in that area anyway. I mean, there's cameras on the community centre. I think Busy Bee have got cameras as well. So when we talk about this area, it might be the only public facing CCTV camera, but it's, there are other CCTVs in the area anyway. So
including Budgeons as well, Ian. Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Sorry to poke in, but I know that Busy Bees, I've requested footage from their cameras before, and they've got signs saying they've got cameras, but their cameras haven't been in operation for a very long time, unless they've had them fixed in the last 6 months.
I've heard that remarkably frequently, that the signs stay there, but the cameras might have failed long ago. Okay. Kelly, do you think you picked up some actions from that proposal? Does anyone feel we need to vote on that, or?
It's up to you, Chair, if you want to take a vote on it.
I'm not hearing any dissent, so I was going to suggest that we take that proposal to, as Ian said, plus potentially inquiring about additional signage. Okay. I believe the next item related to the website.
So I was asked if we could, that's it, calculate the number of hits on the website. So Aubergine advised me to sign up for Google Analytics, and then they very kindly, they put which I did, and then they put the tracking script that the analytics provided into the website, so we can now tell at any point how many users, new users have used the website. It was 65 this morning from when the new website launched. So yeah, so that's there at any point if anybody wants, curious about who's looking.
That strikes me as a relatively high number versus what we may have expected, actually.
It's probably me, to be fair. Just keep going on and admiring my handiwork because I was proud of it, and my dad and my sister. But no, I think it does detect a new user every time, so that number doesn't include somebody that's looked at it before. So yeah, that's good.
I believe the next item was an update regarding the hand sanitizers.
And I'm going to start shaking my head. So, the hand sanitizers, having walked around again, having been given sort of delegated authority at the last meeting to see if we could find a suitable site, considering they have to be fixed to something but they can't be bolted to the ground, I can't see anywhere in the neighbourhood centre where there's somewhere they can be chained to where they're not being obstructive. The only place I considered was the railings outside Busy Bees. So I spoke to Lisa, the manager at Busy Bees, but Busy Bees, Shawnee Community Centre, Budgeons have all got their own sort of method for hand sanitising, well established. It's been there for a couple of months now, and there was a certain reluctance to have the hand sanitisers, which I do understand. I also had a few more conversations with Andrew Figgis, who's the development officer responsible for the hand sanitisers, and he said he's very wary of a situation where the units are being moved around because they're very heavy, and they don't want people claiming damages for. They don't want people claiming damages for them being picked up and thrown through a car window, but they don't want them, damages being claimed for somebody hurting themselves either. So, yeah, he had a bit of a brick wall, but it's not uncommon. He's expressing similar frustration in other areas that they just can't find somewhere suitable. And he said that what they're doing with some of them, they're taking them back and they're putting them in NHDC car parks, utilising them there. So really, it's to put it back to you. Do you want me to continue to try and find somewhere in the neighbourhood centre? I think the other thing we discussed about was maybe the parks. But again, the parks are quite well equipped. You've got the issue of how to secure them. They're also slightly more out of view, slightly perhaps more prone to being vandalised or moved. So I don't know if you want me to continue or whether you want me to wave a white flag and hand them back to Andrew. It's a tricky one.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, they've almost come a little bit late. I feel a little bit late to the party. All the places already had their sort of sanitising, regime quite well established.
So I don't know what others think on this, but my own thoughts are that we've offered them around the neighbourhood centre. It seems that all of the shops are actually well equipped already. We've assessed the play areas, and actually those are already equipped with their own hand sanitizer. I think we've made best efforts on this, and I think we should say we don't think there's the additional demand for these locally, and we should hand them back. Farrell.
Thanks, George. I tend to agree that if the units can be used by an HDC, then I think the thing we should do is let the units be used and relinquish them back so that they can have a purpose, really.
I agree, actually. I think we've come late on the scene, as you've said. And if all the obvious places and organisations are well equipped, well, good. If we can't do any more for them, then that's good too. So I think we should, let them be used elsewhere where they're really needed.
I was just going to reiterate what people are saying. I believe that we should just hand them back. Kelly's done the best, and having worked in the neighbourhood centre with the shops and doing the bins and things like that, I can tell you that they have got the sanitisation bit very well clear from my point of view as well. So let's give them back.
And apologies to Shawnee that they've been cluttering up the community centre. I'll come and get them.
Paul, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to agree, but I think we should minute it so that, we have tried our best efforts to make them available, but it just hasn't been possible.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement and we can resolve to do that. Minute that we've made best efforts, but we haven't found the local demand, so we should hand them back. If that is okay with everyone?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Kelly, for your effort there.
It's frustrating that they've just, it was getting frustrating that they're sat there and not being used, so at least we can give them back.
Rather a more difficult problem than we anticipated. Should we move on to the finance report at this point?
Yeah, so I think one of my actions was to confirm with Unity the current 3 bank signatories and apply for online banking. I can confirm the current signatories as it's Robert, Evelyn and Jess. We had a staffing committee meeting on the 25th of March, and we've decided to defer applying for online banking until, well now essentially, to the new financial year. So we don't have to, because it will require our financial regulations to be updated, and doing that at the end of the financial year will be a bit more problematic. So that's an action for me to pick up in June.
Okay. Then there was a minute regarding the Highways and Grounds Committee. I believe this was the play area review. Oh, I'm sorry, Terry. Did you want to come in on that one?
Sorry, I was just yes, I'm fiddling about with my mouse that's not cooperating and demuting me. If that's the right word. I was just going to say, I about the signatories and things like that. Kelly, you're going to have to take into account who's going to be the signatory, and I was wondering whether we could cover that off now, or is it going to be the remaining 3 that are already there, or should it be more?
I think ideally, so if we go online, it will still require 2 signatories. I think the way it works is that I'll be an administrator, I'll set it up. Division of duties, I won't be able to release any payments. I think I would ideally like 1 more signatory for leave or holidays or people not being available.
I'd certainly volunteer. I used to be a signatory at one time in in a former life. But if somebody else prefers to, then that's fine. But yeah, I think there should be more. And it would be great just to identify who's going to be the signatories now, so you know what it's going to be when you do the transfer to online.
Yeah, that would be great actually, because I need to take Matt off, and it would make sense just to take Matt off and put somebody on at the same time. So yeah, that would be helpful.
I'll put my name into that as well. We can have a tombola.
Sorry, Jess would like to come in there.
Sorry, yeah, can we do the hands up thing? I was just going to suggest, as I'm already a signatory, would it make sense for the chair to be a signatory because it reduces the number of houses Kelly has to go to? Just throwing it out there as a speeding up people's lives thing, but that was it.
We need to go to houses with electronic signing.
I was actually going to suggest that the first item on the agenda at our next meeting, I believe, is going to be to elect a chair. So if we were going to have the chair as a signatory, we should probably wait until the next meeting to establish who that is. I don't want to preempt any votes like that. Alternately, I'd be quite happy if Terry wanted to volunteer and we leave it at that. I don't think the chair necessarily has to be a signatory. And do correct me if I'm wrong.
No, not at all.
Ian?
Why don't we just leave it to the May meeting? There's no sudden rush, is there, for extra signatories as we're going online? And I mean, as I attend more meetings than most, it seems, I wouldn't mind being a signatory, but if we put ourselves into a tombola,
Kelly's already pointed out that there's 3 of us already. And I'm sure the 3 are willing to continue. And Terry's volunteered to become an additional to make it 4, which gives a certain amount of coverage in the event of absences.
Terry?
I didn't mean to open some sort of can of worms here. What I was trying to do is make it easier for Kelly when she transfers onto online banking, so she knows who to approach, and that's all. That's all I just wanted on my agenda. Okay, but I'm perfectly willing to put my hand up if somebody feels strongly they want to do it more than me. I'm happy with that as well.
I think we should wait till May.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to propose that Terry be added as a 4th signatory, I will put it to a vote, and in the event that the vote is failed, this will go on to the next meeting as an agenda item to decide who our signatory should be. Does that seem like a fair way to proceed? Okay. Is there a
seconder? Yeah. Sorry.
A seconder for that proposal? Keith,
Second.
thank you. I think Keith was first in there.
Okay.
Sorry, who seconded it? Keith. Okay.
Okay. So those in favour of Terry being added as the fourth signatory? Sorry, Kelly, were you able to count these for us?
I think so. Paul, have you got your hand up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favour.
And any votes against?
1. Yeah.
And I will assume remaining are abstentions.
Have I missed? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
I'll approach the. I'll get the ball rolling with Unity. I probably won't do anything until we've gone through our audit. But thank you. I can get that started now.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry. 2 seconds. Sorry, people.
There will be a brief intermission. There'll be a brief intermission while people work from home. I believe, depending on how the end of our agenda goes, this may or may not be our final remote meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe we have a decision to make later on.
It's a pity. I like the remote meetings.
Yes, we could discuss that a little bit later on. Actually, welcome back, Kelly.
All right.
I believe we were up to an action regarding the play area review.
Yeah. Okay. So at the last meeting, full council took the recommendation from Highway and Grounds to forward the play area review, complete with recommendations, to Tom Ayres, which I did. He has that. We've had 2 phone calls. He's checked the agreement. The first thing he wanted to do was check the agreement between us and NHTC to make sure that we can do that, and that's fine. His suggestion is we can either have form a small working group that can liaise with Tom, and he can liaise with suppliers, bring that information to the working group, or he can simply supply us with the details of NHDC recommended suppliers, and we can just run with it directly. Yeah, so that's up to you as to how you want to do it. If you want to take it outside of Highways and Grounds and form a more generic working group to move it forward before the next committee meeting, or if you're happy for Tom to just sort of go off and get quotes himself. I would suggest that perhaps it's easier if Tom spoke to people initially, so he knows exactly what the committee want. Perhaps even another site visit with him there. But he's very happy to talk to anybody about how to take it forward.
Robert, do you want to come in?
I mean, the important thing here is cost. I mean, that's key to it, and we've definitely got a preference for a couple of slides to be included, and if we can do anything beyond that, then so well and good. I'm sure everyone would be grateful for that.
Ian?
So Robert, you're saying that really just let Tom Ayres get us some quotes, are you? Yeah. I'm in agreement. Sorry.
No, apologies.
Tom has got to be aware of the locations that we're proposing, and it's just conceivable that an item of equipment already in existence may need to be moved. depending upon the size of the new equipment that we're bringing in. So it could be a little bit complex, depending.
Would you like a site? Would you like a site visit arranged with
It
Tom?
depends on
Would that perhaps
dimension.
make sense so he can visualise?
I think Tom is familiar with the location of the pieces of equipment, and I don't think that any equipment needs to be physically moved to accommodate a new piece of equipment, but Tom would have the answer to that.
It's possible, Evelyn, that an item of equipment on the Cleveland roundabout might have to be moved. Again, it depends on the actual size of the new bit of kit that we bring in.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, Ian, yes.
Yeah, I just remember my thoughts are really that it would seem it would expedite matters if we just gave Tom as much freedom as we could to get the information back to review.
I'm inclined to agree, and I would be keen to free this from the sort of official structure of our monthly council meetings. I wonder if we could agree to give Tom to have Tom go away and get quotes for things, and potentially designate a point of contact counsellor for him to come back to for things like site visits and that sort of thing if he felt he needed to. I suspect as the primary author of the report, Robert would probably be best placed to do that.
Be happy to do that.
How would the council feel about that as a way forward?
Absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think we can resolve that way then.
Thanks, George.
Yeah.
In which case, the next item was regarding the Christmas fair.
So I was asked to book a date. So we've liaised with Shawnee, thank you, and we've booked Sunday the 5th of December, 2 halls. That's 1 o'clock till £5:30, and the cost will be £162. And the trustees and Shawnee also kindly offered to provide refreshments at the fair as a fundraiser for the community centre. So if that's all.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I checked around Diamond as well. There's no clash there. Their Christmas fair's not been organised yet, and if it is, when it does go ahead, it will be during the week. So they said thank you for checking with them, and good luck with ours. So there'll be no clash.
Terry, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I think that's great. One of the things I was just going to volunteer, really. I've been getting a bit of Father Christmas experience over the last year. So if you do need a Father Christmas, then I'm the right shape, and I won't have the beard at the moment. It has to be a false one, but I'm certainly volunteering to do the Father Christmas bit if you wish.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm good, thank you.
Got to keep the beard. Got to keep. I know it might be problematic over the summer, but
I've got too many pictures without the beard, so it's difficult in this time of year, if you want to call it that.
Jess, did you want to come in there?
Importantly, then, can I be at Dancing Elf again? I was fantastic Dancing Elf. I've been Dancing Elf 2 years in a row.
I like your modesty, Jess. Yeah.
If I minute that, you can't reverse that decision.
No, that's it. You're Dancing Elf.
And volunteering.
But do we need? Could I possibly ask that just the cost is proposed and seconded and voted upon, just so that we've got a trail for that?
Oh, certainly. Could you reiterate what the cost was?
It's £162. So that's for 4.5 hours. 2 halls.
I'll second it or propose it. Yeah.
I think Jess was trying to propose. I think that puts you as second, Terry, if that's all right.
Second.
That's fine. Yes, it's to get through.
Yeah. Because it's money, we will do a vote. So I'd ask all in favour of authorising that spend.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Paul?
Yeah.
Brilliant. 11. Thank you very much.
And I think that is a full house, isn't it?
Yeah.
Splendid.
And a thank you to the community centre for refreshments. Are we happy to feed that back?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, splendid. In which case, I think the last action arising was, were there some press releases we were asking for?
Yeah, it's a quick one just to say they were done. So the new website was advertised on Facebook, and we put a link to the new welcome pack on Facebook as well, as requested.
Okay,
they were done.
I seem to remember we got some feedback on the welcome pack. Have we been able to action that with a minor update?
Oh, I think we're waiting for the we asked for some input from the community centre. We was waiting for that to be sent through, but as soon as it is, it'll be added.
I don't believe they've had time to meet yet to discuss it, but we have got a meeting next week, so I'll give them a nudge.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've previously agreed that we're very happy to do that. So okay. Okay, splendid. In which case, I'll move on to item number 5, which is an item we generally reserve for members of the public to raise any concerns that don't otherwise appear on the agenda. Now, this month we also have a grant application to discuss later on the agenda. I was going to suggest that if the presentation for that wanted to be taken under this item, we could ask any relevant questions at this point, and then people can stay for the rest of the agenda or not as they choose, rather than having to sit through the rest of the meeting. Okay, so, Shawneen, shall I hand over at that point?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologise for the change in the grant application. It's just that my flashing, so it was like I'm not. So we decided to completely change that, and I haven't had time to get an updated quotation for you. So we just want the quote. We just wanted the grant towards the magnetic lock on the door at the moment, which basically safeguards anyone that's in the community centre, because we cannot lock ourselves in. So when I'm in there on my own, or the preschool are in there on their own, anyone can walk in and out. So we can't. And there is a magnetic lock that was installed well before my time, back at the beginning when Dot was there, I think, and it's failed, and it doesn't come under NHDC's compliance. So that's what I'm after. I think it's £1,194.
What was I going to ask?
And in the email, I did attach an email from Gacc, I think his name is, at NHDC, stating that they won't cover the cost of it.
Mean lot.
I know. But over lockdown, it has been quite daunting sitting in there on your own and not being able to lock the door.
Yeah, not nice.
No. And it makes the one-way system for the preschool quite an epic journey for them, having to go the long way around the building, round the garden, out the side entrance.
Okay. Harry, did you have a question on that?
Yes, yeah. I think being popping into the community centre during my other duties, I can see that it's that the door was always open, like anybody could just walk in. So I fully support this, and yeah, it has my full support, and I vote for it.
A lot of money, but if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yep.
We have to be sure on health and safety.
And the quotation is actually from First Response, who are NHDC's contractors who install all our do all our fire alarms and stuff with our doors.
I believe we have an item on finance coming up shortly after this, actually, so we can check the grant budget against that's remaining against this at that point, I suspect. But my understanding is that this is.
Oh, yeah. Well, can we make a proposal that this is accepted?
I may have confused things here by inviting people to speak early. The discussion regarding the grant itself is a later agenda item. I just thought that the public participation bit of it we could get out of the way a bit earlier, so as to not have people sit through the entirety of our meeting. So let's Terry. Sorry.
George, if I understand correctly, then if we don't do the proposal and vote now, then Charlene's going to have to stay with us until a later item. I thought one of the reasons why you did this is to release that from the dreaded Gacc meeting.
I mean, Charlene doesn't mind, but she has got a weekly Thursday quiz going on downstairs, which my husband is probably dreading the music round without me.
I'm happy to email Charlene straight away following the meeting if that helps.
Yeah, I think you make a fair point, and this maybe hasn't quite achieved what I wanted. So what I would suggest is, Kelly, if you're just to refresh our memories, able to give us the bit of the budget update saying how much we have allocated for grants in the community centre still outstanding, because I think that is relevant information from a later item. And if we then take item 10 now, we can conclude this discussion rather than splitting it at either end.
This new budget.
Well, is it? Because, well, you can look at it two ways. So the deadline for this application fell in the prior financial year, 15th of March. So it would be part of the underspend. It would be part of last year's budget, which forms part of our underspend coming forward. But either way, there's sufficient funds.
Okay.
Sufficient funds.
Well, I would suggest that as we're dealing with it now, and we're in the new year, that it comes out of the current budget. And effectively, as you say, our funds are topped up by the underspending from the old year.
Okay, give me 2 seconds then, and I'll just find this year's budget. Can you still see me even though I've got a different screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we have community grants and donations. We took out the community centre line, didn't we? We amalgamated the two lines, and it's 7,500 is the budget figure for this financial year.
Yeah, my memory, at least, is that in recent years we have not been budget limited on our grants. So
Needed to be.
that's my memory. So are there any more? If we now move on officially to item 10, which is to consider the grant application, are there any further questions on this item? Terry?
Just to say, I fully support it. Let's move the motion.
Sure, certainly. So I suspect that is Terry proposing to. Sorry, Jess, were you trying to come in there?
I was trying to propose, but everyone else kept talking, so I didn't.
Don't fight over me, okay? It's just take your time.
You can be the seconder, Jess, if you wish.
I think Terry has proposed, Jess has seconded. All those in favour of awarding the grants?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Full house, 11.
Thank you very much.
Splendid. And with my apologies for the agenda confusion I've caused there, that'll teach me to try and be helpful. So I'll now return to item 5 and ask, are there any other matters that members of the public wish to raise? will move on to item 6, which is feedback from county and district councillors. Terry, coming.
Just one thing there. If we've concluded business for Shanine, should we not release her at this point before we move on?
Oh, yes, certainly. You are welcome. You are obviously welcome to continue to attend the meeting. It is
I was saying to attend a few more meetings in the future to try and keep up a link between us, but on this actual occasion, I do have to disappear.
Very nice. Good.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Janine.
I suggest that Steve, being the county councillor, should go first.
As the one that doesn't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, I was going to invite Steve.
Thanks. That's very kind, because as usual, I find myself trying to get 2 meetings this evening. I don't have, I think, having said quite a lot when I wasn't here last month, I don't have so much to say this time. Last time I talked about the Stevenage car cruising sign, and the debate about that continues. County Council tells me it was installed where it was, because that's where the police wanted it. I asked the police why they wanted it there, and their immediate response was, I guess, summarised as did we. So they've gone away to find out which bit of the police decided they wanted there. I suggested that it was much more sensible if it were put actually by the bridleway on the boundary between North Herts and Stevenage, because then it would tell people where the injunction actually applies. All the others I can see are on the boundaries of Stevenage. This one for some reason isn't. Anyway, so the police have gone away to investigate why they asked for it to be there. But essentially the position I have from the highways officers is they're not going to move it from where the police asked it for it to be unless the police ask them to do that. So hopefully we're making some progress on that. As you will all have seen, the bridleway barriers were installed. There were some issues in that it doesn't appear to have been great communication about provision of keys, but the county and the district council are now in communication and talking to one another to try and sort that out. I think inevitably it's not stopped the problem of motorcycles using the bridleway. Hopefully it will have deterred some, and it certainly stops anything bigger than a motorcycle using it. But there is a real issue in that if the bridleway is to be accessible to people using mobility scooters and the buggies and things like that, it's extremely difficult to come up with a physical barrier that's impassable by a motorcycle that is passable by a mobility scooter. So we're down to trying to make it more difficult, essentially. And they should also be looking at restoring the barriers at the bottom end of the bridleway down by the Thames Water pumping station, although I don't actually have a date for them to do any of that yet, but they're aware of that. So a small step forward in that we've done what safety people and the police said they would like done, but I think it's probably optimistic to say that's going to solve the problem. It's going to require a combination of physical measures and some enforcement activity. I suspect we're going to reduce the impact of it. And I think that's probably all I have to say this month.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, Terry, is that a question for Steve, or certainly go ahead?
Hi, Steve. That's great news that you got the barriers in, and it's been long overdue. It's great news. I was just going to ask, of course, that is a bridleway. The horse access is still there, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a step over for horses. There are some bridleways that have step overs that are rather more difficult to get things other than horses over, but there is a section of the gate that's lowered and there's timber across it, which is a fairly standard sort of arrangement that a horse can step over. So yeah, it's still to be accessible to horses.
Brilliant. Just wanted to check.
Thanks. I think it's used frequently by horses, but it's still accessible by them.
Kelly, would you like to come in there?
Yeah, just to let everybody know, I christened it yesterday on my horse and fell off. They are really common, and she decided to take a flying leap over it, so that was embarrassing. But yeah, it's definitely accessible. I got to the other side.
And from a horse point of view, it's much better than what was originally there with those large sort of hoops which were locked into holes in the ground and were removed by Thames Water, I think, and probably thrown in the bushes, to be honest. But
Yeah.
there was I guess, in a horse, you'd have to kind of wind your way around them, so it's more accessible by a
Nice.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions for Steve before we release him? All right. Thank you very much for the update.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to leave you at this point, if that's okay then.
Certainly.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, Steve. Right.
Terry, I was going to ask if you had anything this month. I suspect we may overlap if my telepathy is going as I think.
Well, I think I might leave anything for yourself this month. But what's happening, of course, is it's election time, so there's not a lot of things that are going on apart from the normal stuff. I can say that next Thursday is the next full council meeting for the NHDC, which I'll be delighted to chair. But yes, George, please take over.
Oh, so okay, my only real one was, as I suspect most people are aware, we've again had a recent flare-up of antisocial behaviour in the district park, which obviously creates an awful lot of disquiet from local residents in Serpentine, both from the disruption to them in their homes and also to the state the park is left in with litter everywhere and vandalism to our benches yet again. I myself and residents have been in touch with both council officers to get the CCTV checked, because apparently the gate was again failing to close, having been potentially vandalised again. And also onto the police to say that we've had a flare-up of difficulties again here. Can you please treat this in the way that it was treated this time last year, where they were able to attend and disperse crowds? I must admit, I didn't get much immediate response from that. I don't know if, Terry, your experience has been different. And I think the cold snap may have come in time to stop the situation escalating itself. Unless you know any more on that, Terry.
I don't know much more. It is unfortunate that it's happened yet again. They certainly haven't. The police certainly haven't put it. Is it Section 34? Was it? There was some sort of order that made it illegal for them to be there. In fact, in a lot of respects, it should only be six household people from six people from different households, the maximum in the group, and they're clearly breaking the COVID laws as well. It's a difficult one. I think that we could actually put together, as we did before, to get the camera and the things fixed. Put together a little bit of a task team and with the police and go through it again with them. Certainly, be happy to do that. Thanks.
So, Ian, did you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we should sort of note that it was on that particular day, it was a national issue, not just something that we could say was localised. It was I think the warmest March day since 1968, which obviously doesn't happen very often. And I think in the local press, you had places like Windmill Hill in Hitchin that equally had sort of rubbish left around. And ironically, if you look at Windmill Hill, it's actually got a CCTV camera pointing around that area anyway. So I think, as we discussed before, that CCTV would be a good thing to have in the park. It wouldn't hurt, but just like the motorbike situation that Steve said, putting a gate in doesn't necessarily stop motorbikes. I don't necessarily say that if we put CCTV in, it will necessarily stop something. It may alleviate some residents' concern, but we shouldn't be saying it's just a localised issue. It was a national issue on that day. And I hope we don't see it happen again when the temperatures increase. But as we know, when we get onto the crime stats later, typically antisocial behaviour does reach its peaks in warmer weather because more people are out and about.
So this was actually something that came up at the update from the police at Southern Rural recently, which is, whilst the district park has been a particular hotspot, over lockdown there has been a pretty much county-wide increase in that sort of antisocial behaviour, and it's I think driven by people who have been locked up for the best part of a year now, getting very fractious. I sadly expect it will return when the warm weather returns, though hopefully will blow itself out somewhat as lockdown restrictions ease and people can get back to how they usually used to spend their time rather than finding any way they can. With that in mind, I'd be tempted, Terry, to say that maybe not jumping to another sort of task group right now, but keeping that in mind for if and when it flares up again to get on top of that with the council. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sure. And I think a very valid point that Ian's made, that it was a national thing, but I do share your concerns, George, that it will happen again, and yeah, let's keep it in reserve. If we need to, we can. George and I, and Steve from the county and the police can get back together again and execute some sort of plan on behalf of the community.
Okay. Any more on that one, or shall we move along? I am getting a little bit conscious of time on this one, I must admit. Okay, in which case I will move on to item 7, which is the finance reports.
Okay, apologies for the late circulation of the report. Just dates, Easter holidays, the bank statements unfortunately didn't get issued until Tuesday. But does anybody have any questions rather than me going through the report? Excellent. So just to quickly say, so we're now into audit territory. I've had all the audit paperwork from the external auditors, spelling out all the key dates that we need to hit. We'll pick this up later as part of when we can hold our meetings, but essentially we have to approve sections 1 and 2 of the AGAR, so the accounting return, by the 30th of June. So I would recommend that we seek to approve this at the June meeting, but depending on our internal auditor, if they can turn things around quite quickly, my preference would actually be to get you all to authorise it at the May meeting. So I will try and do that, but it may slip. So because we have to send everything off to the external auditors by the 2nd of July. I've also got the dates around the public inspection when we have to advertise that members of the public can come and inspect the accounts if they want to, pre-audited accounts. So I think the only thing today, what I had hoped to bring to you today was a quote from the internal auditors. I believe you've always used Tax Assist and Stevenage, so there's no requirement to go out and get quotes from different internal auditors. I've had a phone call with them. The accountant there that deals with sort of public authorities, so who would be our point of contact, unfortunately is on leave until Monday. So with your permission, I'd like to just go ahead and engage them to do the internal audit. I think last year the charge was £90. So I don't know if you want to give me an upper limit that you're happy. I won't tell them what that upper limit is, but if you want to give me a limit that you're happy for me to go up to, and then we can just crack on, then we don't have to wait until the May meeting. £90 sounds like about 1 hour's work to me, so I don't know.
I was going to say, Kelly, that my view is that we should give you authority to crack ahead, and then maybe give an upper limit of 150, just in case there's some sort of inflation bits. Just give you something. That would be my sort of suggestion.
Thank you.
Keith, would you like to come in there?
Yeah, Kelly, quite the opposite. I was going to ask, how much do you think you need? What's a fair budget for you?
I don't know. Having not done, I mean, I can send out, having seen what the internal auditor has to do, it's actually less around figures. It's more around analysing sort of our internal controls. But I would imagine, because this is the benefit to carrying on with somebody that's already, done our audit. They will be very familiar with our standing orders, our financial regulations. Nothing's really changed this year. So I can't see, £90 to me sounds like about an hour and a half's work for an internal auditor at the moment. So
it's good
perhaps
value.
given my inexperience, it's going to take me a little bit more time perhaps to give them the information that they need. But I can't see that it's. Robert, what do you think? I can't see that it's going to be much more than.
I don't think it will be. I mean, for simplicity, I like Terry's suggestion of an upper limit. It's far too high, but it saves you having any aggro and having to come back to us.
I'll just tell them they have to do it within £180.
150 and
I'm sorry,
Yes, that was 150.
Oh, sorry.
That's inflation for you, isn't it?
Inflated that in the last 2 minutes, didn't I? But yeah, I may be going out and doing internal audit work myself for other parish councils, so it'd be interesting to see what the charge out rate is.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Chair, do you want to take that to a proposal and vote?
I had one question myself, which is I'm just going through the what ifs of. I don't think for a second that they will hit that limit, but I'm going if they did hit that limit and we haven't authorised that spend, I presume that would then need to come back to full council. What would that mean for our timescales in that case?
Actually, the only other way you could do it, bear with me a second, why don't you just authorise me up to our budget level?
Oh, that would be the sensible number to take, wouldn't it?
Let's see what's in there. Audit. Oh wow, audit fees 350, but that would include the external audit as well. So we have an audit fee budget of 350, and obviously we would have time to extend that in terms of what the external auditor would charge, if that makes sense. So even if the internal auditor charged us 200. And the external audit is going to be another 200. We can approve that excess at the May meeting.
Yeah, I think 150 is sensible, but I think we just then delegate Robert and Kelly to if something comes up, it's not going to be hundreds of pounds more than that, and I think we just let Robert and Kelly make a decision on their behalf. They're going to make a sensible decision. 150, I think, will do it. If we need to go up to 200 or whatever, I'm sure Robert and Kelly are more than capable of making that decision for us.
I mean, Texas List have been very consistent over the years. They've always acted in this capacity, and they're very fair with us, I believe.
Yeah, I was. Sorry, Terry.
I was just going to say we can't say 150 to 200. We have to give some limit in this statement. If we think 200, just to be as a catch-all, I think it's far in excess. If it was 90, I expected it'd probably be 120 this time. But 150, I think, is a suitable cap. Because if it does go over that, then it will have to come back to committee.
I'm inclined to agree. I think we're discussing the sheer mechanics of how we do this, but I think we're all in agreement, and I think 150 is a sensible number. So yeah, I think Terry proposed, and I would second that we authorise up to 150 with an expectation that it will not be that much. Could I ask for all those in favour?
Yep, count them.
Where's Evelyn gone? I've got 7 there, is that okay?
Yeah, Eden is literally missing.
Yeah, he just popped out for a minute.
Okay, well,
Just serve and carry it.
I've started, so I'll proceed with the vote. To any against?
I have to say I was in agreement with Keith, actually. I mean, it is a reasonable suggestion to leave it with Kelly and I. Kelly's got an authority to spend money, but I wouldn't make an issue over it.
Okay, and then shall I assume the rest abstain? I believe that was carried anyway, Kelly.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it on the audit. There is a possibility that we can extend to September, but I'd rather not. Just get it done.
But only, I'd only do that if we absolutely had to.
No.
Okay, was there a separate item on the external auditor, or have we covered what we need to on that item?
No, I think that's it. I'll send the what I'll do. I'll send the return out so new councillors just get to see, because you will all be collectively approving it or not at some point. So I'll send out the blank document so everyone can just get visibility of it, what you're signing up to.
Okay, in which case I'll move on to item 8, which is to receive feedback from the Community Planning Committee. Robert, I believe this was with you to introduce.
Yes, thank you. You do have the copy of the minutes from our meeting. I believe it was an incredibly successful meeting. We were very fortunate to have James Eagling from the Stevenage Garden Centre making lots of very helpful comments to do with the Best Kept Garden competition, and people were very impressed with his positive and proactive attitude. So very successful. If anyone has any problems on that, then Jess is there to field them, but it was really very good. Other things, I think, are as per the minutes, unless anyone has any other questions.
Jess?
Would now be a good time to propose that the Best Kept Garden competition itself, which had been sent out to you all in advance of this meeting. That's the badger, the one that you can't see. There you go. You've learnt my rule. You have to put it in front of your chest for it to be visible. So basically, this comes with zero spend for the council. Prizes are being kindly donated by individual councillors. It is a event in order to help people engage with their gardens over the next 3 months, as that's where we're all going to be socialising anyway. Stevenage Garden Centre are willing to judge. They're going to do all the judging. So we've got a nice external judge, and he's also going to help us with advertising and support on helping people to understand what we're looking for in each category. I'd say look at the minutes from the meeting if you want more detail on all of that. But basically, unless anyone's got any major questions about the competition, I was going to suggest, can I just propose we do it? Because I don't think there's anything controversial in it. Please let me know now if there is. Yo. Yep. Terry? Can't hear you because you're muted. Only hear me. Nope, still muted. So close.
I thought I discovered I could press the space key, but that doesn't work. All right, okay. Sorry, I was just going to commend you on the work. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's going to be a very good event, and I fully support it. And yes, I would say that I would certainly, if you're proposing for us to move ahead on it, I would certainly second it. I think it's going to be a great event.
I think George might be grumpy because he was probably planning to second that, being he did a lot of the work on it, but you may have beaten him.
By all means, I would defer to George if he wishes to second.
Oh, cheers. Sorry, I thought that one was actually on the agenda, but it might not have been on there. But yes,
it's part of this one. Sorry.
Yeah, but sorry about that. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, I'm really happy to second that we proceed with the competition as per the report.
I have no idea who's running this item anymore. Who calls for all in favour?
I believe I do, don't I?
Yes, chair. You're still in the chairs, George. So you have to call a vote.
If there are no further questions on the report, then I'll call for all those in favour of proceeding with the competition as described.
something that was universally voted for.
Well done.
So do you want me to put that out? When do you want that to go? Do you want it on the website and Facebook? Right now? Tonight? Tomorrow?
I mean,
As soon as?
I was going to say it's fairly late at this point, so I'd probably say 5 o'clock tomorrow when people are more likely to be looking, or is 8 a.m. good? What's those of you who used Facebook more than me? What's a good time?
8 a.m. in the morning would be better.
There we go. Kelly, you up at that time?
I've got a
You've got
4-year-old.
children. Sorry.
Time. Yeah.
I didn't mean are you up. I actually meant are you not horribly busy?
No, I can do that first thing. Not problem.
Are there any other questions arising from the community planning meeting? I think the draft minutes are pretty self-explanatory, but if anyone wishes to raise anything. Larry.
Sorry, I don't mean to be so Melfi this evening, but I was just going to ask Ian, the Great Ashby photo competition, which you're taking care of. I just wondered if you wanted to expand on something about what you're doing on that, because that sounds like another wonderful project.
Well, it's out there. We're promoting it as you probably see on the website and on Facebook. And we're receiving some photos from the community. I guess we're on target. It's a competition that's running, and it seems to be well received. I mean, yeah, there's I think 5 photos per person, so we could end up with a deluge right before the end of May if we're lucky. But at the very least, it gives the opportunity to do something positive for the community, give them something to occupy themselves and look forward to during our lockdown periods, and just as a feel-good factor to it.
Definitely.
Thank you, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George.
Okay, if there are no further questions on this one, then I'll move on to item 9, which is to receive feedback from the staffing committee, and is back to Robert again.
Thank you. Well, again, I don't want to bore people with the detail within this. It's all very well documented, but if there are any questions, I'm sure we'll be able to respond. I think silence is golden, John.
Unless there are any, I think we can call that noted and move on. So the next item would be item 10, which has already been taken.
Yep.
So we move on to item 11, which is the Coronavirus Act power to hold meetings remotely expiration on the 7th of May.
So for the benefit of those of you that were unable to attend last month, so the 2020 Act that was put through last year that gave us the authority to hold these meetings remotely expires on the 7th of May. So as things stand, after the 7th of May, we have to hold meetings face to face again. The issue being, for us, the community centre, we can't have meetings there until the 17th of May, so there's a gap. We discussed at the last meeting, this primarily affects our annual full council and the annual parish meeting, which they were scheduled for the 13th of May. And it was agreed at the last meeting that the preference would be to bring these forward to Thursday the 6th. And my apologies, I've put the 4th on this agenda. It was Thursday the 6th that was agreed. So therefore we can safely still hold those 2 meetings remotely. And we were just going to confirm that today. There was, I think we didn't formally sort of propose it last time in the hope that the legislation would be extended. It still might be. There's a tremendous debate going on. Local councils are really struggling. Local councils in particular that are holding elections. This has thrown them into complete disarray where they're just simply not able to hold meetings, in May. So it's and HAPS especially are strongly recommending that we just bring our annual meetings forward to hold them before the 7th. rather than just wait with our fingers crossed to see what happens afterwards.
Terry?
I was a bit distressed to hear that it might be on Thursday the 6th. I think some of us might be a little bit busy that evening. But I'd say that from a point of view, if we do actually meet physically, would still be, as far as I know, the law to relax people being together from different households for the general public is not going to be relaxed until the 21st of June. So I find this very difficult to process, because if we did meet, that means we've got to be 2 meters apart, but we're different households, so we could be breaking the law doing so. Exactly. I would propose that we continue with, or have the. I would be saying that the legislation, if it drops out on the 20th of May, 20th of, sorry, what date was it, Kelly?
The 7th of May.
7th of May, that we are legally bound. We can't do Zoom anymore. We're not allowed to do Zoom anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. If we meet by Zoom after the 7th of May, we are breaking the law.
I would recommend that we seek advice from the monitoring officer NHTC or the monitoring officer NHTC, Jeanette Thompson, or her colleagues, because it's a very difficult one because it sounds like we could be illegal either way if we continue with Zoom or if we try to meet.
Well, this is what I think. I think what we need to do is agree that we're going to bring out, and it mainly affects the annual meetings. So you either need to bring them forward before the 7th of May, and then later on I was going to recommend that you push your June meeting back to after the 21st of June.
So doing that, we'd continue with Zoom?
No. So we'd have our annual meetings on Zoom before the 7th of May, and then after the 21st of May we can meet face to face at the community centre, because lots of the COVID restrictions would have lifted by then. I don't think we can meet between the 7th of May and the 21st of June as a collective in the community centre.
I genuinely think that we should talk to the monitoring officers and HAPTC as well to seek advice, because it's potentially we're going to be doing something illegal. Either way we work. We're
okay if we as long as we bring our main meetings forward to before the 7th of May, that's fine.
Which have to be a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. So that ensures that we can safely hold them.
I would support bringing it forward and getting the Zoom done. But I think we need to seek advice for the further meetings from those that in authority, like HAPTC for advice, or our monitoring officer in NHTC.
HAPTC is sort of updating us all the time. I think, was it this week, I sent out a survey, actually. I can send it again. They're asking all councillors to fill in a survey about their experience of remote meetings. There's a massive push for some sort of hybrid scenario where we're given the discretion as to whether we want to continue remotely or not. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be decided for us to be able to safely hold our main meetings.
Yeah, I do share your disbelief about this. I think they've made a real mess.
Crazy scenario.
We have options because we do not have an election this year. For any authorities that do have an election this year, they are in real trouble here, because from the date of the local elections, they're not allowed to hold remote meetings or in-person meetings, it seems. So
they can't hold their meetings until after the 6th.
There's a real here, and because, despite the fact that they have said no, we're not going to extend this, I think they are going to be forced to act. And I know that Herts County Council, for example, are making representations to the government about this and saying that you've just got to fix this problem. I think that to guard ourselves against being in violation regarding our annual meeting, it is prudent to bring that forward to before the 7th, unfortunately. Sorry, Beryl, did you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think it is a crazy situation, but we talked it at length, didn't we, in the previous meeting, and Kelly has taken Hap's advice, and I think we just have to go with it. We just have to go with the advice and bring the meeting forward and hope that it resolves by the time the June meeting comes around.
Ian?
I was just going to add that when we consider options, and I know that's not, that a hybrid situation where you mix Zoom and physical meetings would be, my personal nightmare scenario. Yeah, I just could not see that working effectively from a technological point of view. I think it'd be plagued with a lot of problems, but I'm sure the other councils are having similar discussions nationally at the moment anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a Clark Facebook page, which is just going crazy with people trying to resolve this. And some councils are just going to carry on and hold meetings remotely because they feel that they won't be taken to task over it. Some are stopping all meetings after the 7th of May, and they're giving their clerk basically delegated authority to carry out all decisions until face-to-face meetings can be carried out safely again, which I'm not comfortable with, and everything in between. It's really tricky, but I think, yeah, I would strongly recommend that you bring your May meetings forward, and at the moment, as things stand, have your June meeting after the 21st of June.
Jess,
Subject to changing it. We can always revise the June meeting at the May meeting, and things might have moved on again by then. So you only really need to decide your May meetings today.
sorry, Jess, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest Terry has made a perfectly valid point that there may be a number of people distracted on the 6th, and that maybe the Monday would be a better date because that is a few days before, because it has to be in May, weekends are suck, so the 3rd seems like unless the 3rd is a bank holiday, let's not do that. The 4th? Yeah, I'm catching up slowly, guys. Let me get there. Does Tuesday the 4th work better than anything else? And while I stop talking, George can then ask Annie.
Yes, sorry, do go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering, what is the penalty for carrying on as we are? Because if there is no penalty or it doesn't have any teeth, who cares?
This is what some councils are saying, especially the smaller parish councils. They're saying what's going to be done. I think the main concern was PR, was just very bad PR to your community, that you've effectively broken the law. I think that was the feeling that was the worst sort of sanction. But
yeah,
we're not going to be fined or disbanded or anything like that. But it just doesn't. You are breaking the law.
Yeah, so nobody goes to prison, nobody gets fined. Who cares?
No.
And I believe this would be the distinction again between something that is illegal and something that is unlawful, which is a grey area that I think, frankly, is a bit above the pay grade of a community council, if I'm honest, to draw that legal distinction.
We don't get paid anything.
Ian, I think you were next.
I was just going to say, I don't think it should be a matter of, whether you get fined or not, because it's sort of the same argument of, like, if you're not going to get caught speeding, then speed away. I think we should look to be, follow the legal guidelines and follow the government guidelines at all times. Even if it's to our own detriment, I think that's the only way to go. Personally, that's my thought.
Jess?
I'd want to suggest as a middle ground, I would absolutely break the law if it's to my own safety and health detriment, but if we just move it to the 4th, it's no one's health or safety, it's just can everyone make a Tuesday. That feels like a middle ground between breaking the law unnecessarily and we may need to in June if drama. Like, I'm totally with you, Annie, if we have to, we have to. But I'm thinking there's an easy solution for May. We just do it on the 4th. Is that impossible for anyone?
Terry?
I just say I fully support that suggestion. Yes, I certainly think we should move it to the Tuesday, if everybody was okay with that. Especially as we're doing it online as well.
I will have to deal with not being able to watch Star Wars all day, but other than that.
Oh yeah, there is that.
Oh, very good. Very good, yeah.
So, I think that we could resolve. I don't know if Jess wants to propose this, and if not, I can. That due to the expiration of the Coronavirus Act enabling virtual meetings, we move our May meeting and the annual meeting to Tuesday, the 4th of May. Could I have a second for that? Unless I think Jess got in there first.
That would be.
I'd say all those in favour.
Normally, with the annual meeting, we start at 7 o'clock, but I'm not sure that there's any need this time because we're not exactly laying on refreshments for the boards who are likely to join us.
Am I right in thinking that you didn't have to hold it last year?
Yes, I believe that last year we were exempt from holding an annual meeting because they hadn't yet sorted out virtual meetings properly.
Just to slightly disagree. We're given other parish councils did go ahead with their annual meetings. It was an option. You could do it or not do it.
So if I go back, I'm just thinking this would be two slightly different agendas for me. If I go back to 2019 and replicate those, because we have to give 7 days notice for one of them, so that I'll need to do that quite quickly. The annual parish meeting.
Yeah.
We have to give 7 days clear notice.
And it does, it goes without saying, but unfortunately, because we'll have brought this forward to ahead of the local elections, we will still be in the control period with the various restrictions that there does place on what the council can and cannot do regarding specific councillors' next.
PERDA as it's known, or
PERDA as it's known. Yeah, it is what it is. With the Act expiring, we don't really have an option there.
But it doesn't stop. Does it stop anyone that wishes to stand for chair, for example, standing for chair? It's business as usual.
Yeah, it's
just how it's any PR that comes out of that meeting we have to be aware of.
It's business as usual. It has some restrictions on nominating specific councillors for events, for example, which I think we've run into recently and things. But other than that, it shouldn't affect us too much. I just thought it was worth the point. I am getting a little conscious on time here. Ian, did you want to come in briefly before we move on this?
Well, I think a couple of times we've mentioned PERDA in like subsequent meetings. In a nutshell, what are the big no-nos for PERDA?
I suspect that's probably a bit too weighty a question to cover in the 5 minutes we have remaining. Could I ask Kelly if you could circulate round any advice that's available for that?
There is a document outlining PERDA. I can forward it to Kelly for distribution.
Okay, thank you very much. I've briefly lost my agenda.
Sorry, George. One more. We'd already moved the highways and grounds forward to the 5th of May. Community planning is still scheduled for the 12th of May. So if you want that one held via Zoom, that's going to need to be moved as well. Have a really busy week, the first week of May. So Robert, I don't know.
I think you could.
How you feel about
unless there's complications with the competitions, I wonder about deferring it until June.
It's a fair point. I think all the major activities that we're doing are currently active and at a comfortable place, so you might be right.
Yeah.
We can always put critical. If there's anything arising out of that committee, just let me know and I'll put it on the main.
Yeah, that's
agenda
fair.
instead. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item 12, which is the policing data for Q1 as previously circulated. Is there anything to say on this item, Ian, or would you just like to take any questions?
I've got a very short spiel here. So the chart on page 2, we see that the number of monthly crimes remains level. It's good to see them drop back to normal levels following the antisocial behaviour that peaked in June 2020 that we've already talked about in part this meeting. The drop is also visible if you compare that wider to the hearts data. So as we said, COVID has had a sort of a pretty ubiquitous type of effect nationally. So the COVID lockdowns had certain level characteristics for some crime categories, such as the understandable dips in numbers of burglary, shoplifting, whilst we've all been spending more time at home. But if you look at their report that Kelly kindly circulated, that especially when you look at the individual crime categories, it's good to see that crime levels for a neighbourhood remain low and pretty level.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
I just wanted to say thank you, Ian, for the work you put in for that report. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. It's certainly interesting. Are there any more questions on the report, or shall we consider that noted?
Noted.
Okay.
Noted.
Thank you. So item 13 is correspondence, which is as previously circulated. Item 14 is to consider the need for any press releases arising from the meeting. We've just moved our annual meeting, but that will, I imagine, be advertised as per the rules for advertising the annual meeting. And I believe we've already agreed publicity for the gardening competition earlier in the agenda. Are there any other items we think warrant publicity or press release?